The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is amazing. After a short tutorial area, which immerses you as a farmhand, you set out on a journey of excitement, fear, and courage. After getting teleported to the Twilight Realm, which is essentially just Earth, but instead of light, it's dark, and also people are evil, you meet Midna, an imp who serves as your guide for this game. I'm getting ahead of myself, though. We need to talk. This game is edgy. Real edgy. After the Wind Waker made a bunch of grown men angry because it didn't look like this, Nintendo took it to heart or something because they then created Twilight Princess, an extremely dark toned Zelda game. The colors are all drab and faded looking. They're going for a more serious story, and I mean this stupid cutscene, man. This is what captivated me, however, this edginess. In true edgelord fashion, Link turns into a wolf whenever he enters the Twilight Realm. They say this is the Triforce of Courage protecting Link from being turned into a soul, but I don't buy it, man. I don't know if I'm crazy, but this is pretty much a furry fanfiction. Midna even treats Link like a wolf when he's in this form. It's really trying to drive it in, and I don't know how to feel about that. But the edge also comes in good forms, like the swordsman who teaches you a bunch of useful combat techniques. It's basically confirmed at this point that this swordsman is the hero of time, the Link from Ocarina of Time, which I sort of like because he's passing down his knowledge onto Link. I don't really like to think about what Link does after the game is over. Like, he talks now and has weird armor? How does he get to that point? Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. The first big temple is the Forest Temple. It has Kokiri symbols on the doors, much like the ones from Ocarina of Time, so I wondered if this tree had any relation to the Great Deku Tree, or maybe it was a part of him. Your goal in this temple is to help monkeys. No, I am not kidding, you have to befriend monkeys, and the temple's mini-boss is this big monkey boss guy who has a boomerang with a wind god in it, or something like that. You have to slap his ass. Sorry, I just wanted to make it clear that I am not joking. You do genuinely spank his ass in order to defeat him, and once you do, the evil parasite that was controlling him is destroyed. After you help all the monkeys by freeing them from cages, you get the most powerful item in all of Zelda, the monkey rope. Like straight up barrel monkey shit right here. Oh great monkey rope. I am nothing compared to your ultimate power. You swing off these kind individuals and fight the main boss of the temple. At first, it's this pathetic big Deku Baba, and I honestly thought the boss would just be this lame because it's the first temple in the game. I was pleasantly surprised when it turned into this giant three-headed Deku Baba beast, who was defeated with the help of the monkey leader that you spanked just earlier and saved from an evil parasite. Wow. I love monkeys a lot, and Zelda monkeys are always amazing. After this, Midna talks about few shadow pieces that she needs for something. This relationship Midna and Link have of helping each other only because they need to is pretty great. Next up is the Goron mines, and oh my goodness, I love the Gorons in this game. Twilight Princess really went for the Gorons being this sort of advanced but tribe-like civilization. They have a huge thing for respect, and the way respect is earned for them is through strength. The strongest dude gets to have their way, basically. This is when the Iron Boots came into the game, and I absolutely loved what they did with them. Mayor Bo is the mayor of Ordon Village, which is coincidentally the village Link is originally from. The mayor actually really likes Link because he is so nice to everyone and always does his best. Pretty neat. He also coincidentally has earned the respect of the Gorons enough to the point where they have gave him the Iron Boots, special boots that allow a normal human to go into a fair fight with the Goron, because, you know, stone against human body is not very fair. I love this way of using the Iron Boots. It's like a way for the Gorons to have equality with other races by allowing a fair fight and having it be completely decided by strength rather than weight. The way you wrestle the Gorons even makes sense in a realistic sort of way. Earlier in the game, when it was like a farm simulator, you have to stop charging goats from escaping their pen. You have to hold your ground tight and get ready for its impact to match it with your own strength. This is much like the Gorons who roll into you, so this sumo style of wrestling makes a lot of sense and it adds so much charm and detail to the Goron race. I love it very much, 10 out of 10. They also made a lot of the Gorons look different, like the 3 elders and the 2 bosses, which I really liked because I always thought it was weird that we only saw different looking Hylians in the older games. Which I know was very likely due to graphical limitations, don't worry, but it is very cool to see the different races with their own cultures and ways of life. I mean, they keep the bow you use in Ocarina of Time and protect it because the hero of time used it and it's a sacred item to them. What's funny is they are keeping the bow so they can give it to the next Link, but just like how how Link had to earn the bow in Ocarina of Time, so must Link in Twilight Princess. This is because of how the fate in these games kind of work, and I love how they've shown that in this more realistic Zelda game. The person guarding the bow is a Goron that looks a lot like the baby Goron from Majora's Mask, but also a lot older, obviously. These two are not the same being. Whatever, you know what I'm trying to say. He wears armor and has weapons for his sumo wrestling, which has you showing your strength and reaction time defeating him.
Here's one of my favorites, Mac.
Knockout!
He then realizes that Link is wearing the green garb the hero of Time wore, and has the same name, and the same hair, and shield. And you go on to take the hero's bow. The Zoras are really cool too. They have like a complete control over Lake Hylia. Every race worships the gods in different ways to some extent, but the Zoras are very divine-like in the way they follow the gods. They have Zora armor made specifically for the descendant of the hero of Time, as well as a dungeon made specifically for him to raise the water levels, much like how it was done in Ocarina of Time's water temple. Do you see what I'm getting at? The Zoras are very adamant on fulfilling the prophecies, which is why they have so much prepared specifically for Link to flourish in. This not only makes the dungeon better, but it also gives the actual reason for all of this existing in a lore kind of way. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, this follows the child timeline of the Zelda franchise, where after defeating Ganon, Link gets sent back in time to snitch on Ganon's evil plans when he was literally just a boy from Kokiri Forest. But he had the Ocarina of Time and played songs only the family could possibly know, so they believed him, and thus he was seen as more of a legend / tradition, because in that timeline none of the stuff after Ganon took over happened for those people. All they know is a kid came in as if sent by the gods themselves and he left. He became a legend, a story, a tradition. I know, the Zelda timeline is confusing as shit, man. All I'm trying to say is that the story is really good and it makes sense. There's also this bird named Plum. Brother? Is that you? Plumperum? Oh my god. Anyways, all these dungeons and temples are completed in order to also get the Few Shadow for Midna, which is split into parts and is said to be very dangerous and powerful. But after you get them all, Zant, who is revealed to somehow know Midna from a long time ago, comes out of nowhere and just tells you to fuck off. Awesome. From there, you take a dying Midna to Zelda in order to save her. Zelda gives Midna her Triforce power or something like that, so Midna, who is a being of Twilight that can't survive in the normal world, can survive in the normal world. Yeah, Zelda actually dies in this one, or at the very least she becomes a soul in the Twilight realm, which is just as bad if not worse. This game should really be called The Legend of Midna or something. Anyways, Midna now tells you that there is a more powerful object that is also coincidentally and conveniently also split up into 3 parts. Wow, I really hope this time Zant doesn't just come in and ruin all of my progress like it's nothing again. That would be bad. This new powerfuler object is a mirror, and you find the first piece / the actual stand for the mirror in the Arbiter's Grounds, a dungeon or temple or maybe a prison, I don't know. This dungeon is cool, but that is only because of the boss fights. The mini-boss is this ghost guy who is in the middle of this giant room. All you can see is a giant evil-looking sword surrounded by ropes that have paper hanging from them. The paper has text on it, and I assume this might be a Japanese tradition to keep souls bound to wherever they go after they die, because that's what it sort of looks like, a prison. Whatever, that doesn't matter. All that matters is that it looks cool and the boss is cool. After you defeat him, you get the spinner, which is literally just a Beyblade.
Beyblade, Beyblade, let it rip. Let's fight an epic battle. Face off and spin the metal.
This item is cool, I guess, but it's only used like twice in the game, and I felt that it could be better utilized. The boss of this dungeon temple prison place is this giant skeletal beast that's awoken by Twilight magic stuff. He is really awesome, and the boss area leads me to believe that this Arbiter's Grounds place might have actually been a prison with a gladiator arena because it looks like one, and there are dead people who rise up and help out the boss. That is one of the things I really love about Twilight Princess. There is so many things that you can just let your imagination run loose on. In my notes for this game, I wrote down, "Baby is talented salesman, very wise," and that pretty much sums up his character. He's a baby, but he makes blunt remarks and opens his own shop, which is genuinely good and has the Hylian shield. I have no idea why this baby is so smart, but I love it, although he is a little creepy. The next temple is Snow Peak Ruins. It's this abandoned mansion that has been inhabited by two Yeti creature looking individuals. They're actually both very sweet and are husband and wife. Isn't that cute? Turns out the wife actually has a piece of the mirror and it corrupts her, making her the final boss. While I normally hate ice levels in pretty much any game, this one was actually rather enjoyable. The item you get is this giant ball and chain that Link can barely carry, and it's very fun to just throw this thing around. The boss fight was a little lame, but the temple itself makes up for this with its super unique atmosphere and layout. This box puzzle is very confusing though, and it took me way longer than I am willing to admit to beat. The next temple is the Temple of Time. I really did not like this one, as I had to backtrack through it like 3 times, and there are 8 floors, but the item you get is cool. It allows you to control certain statues, and it was fun bringing this big one around, smashing through obstacles in the temple. The mini-boss and main boss are awesome too. The mini-boss is this knight, which I'm pretty sure is a dark nut. He has heavy armor, a giant sword, and a giant shield. I have no idea how this dude can be so nimble in all this armor, but it gets even worse when you knock all of his armor off, as he then throws his giant sword at you before unsheathing his second sword. He is now a lot faster and is much harder to hit. I really like this guy. The final boss is a giant spider with a giant eye. Love the consistency, Nintendo. There's a moment that actually managed to make me laugh where you defeat the spider and Link starts doing his little flare flex thing that he does with the sword, where he does some cool sword stuff before sheathing his weapon. But this time he is caught off guard when he finds out the eye is still alive and has become a spider of its own, and you then have to chase after it and kill it. I don't know, something about Link being surprised in a oh fuck kind of way is a little funny to me. After this you have to complete this fetch quest to get Ilia's memory back. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, by the way, I don't know how. Ilia is Link's childhood friend in this game, by the way. I didn't really mention her yet. Anyways, she lost her memory earlier in the game, and now you have to get it back for her. You do this by going around pretty much everywhere to get artifacts and knickknacks that remind Ilia of her past. After you do this, Ilia gives you a flute horn thingy that lets you call Epona. Wow, thank you, Ilia. Wow, thank you, Ilia. I definitely need this now after I have all the warp points unlocked and not at the part of the game where I had to go on a marathon to get to the next point of interest. That is very kind of you, thank you. Listen, I get that she was going to give it to me before she got kidnapped and lost her memory, but from a gameplay standpoint, it really doesn't make much sense for you to get this item this late into the game. Anyways, you then need to take this book thing and find 6 letters to make a word that opens this secret passage and lets you take this cannon to Lake Hylia so it can be fixed by a clown. Okay, I can explain this. It makes sense, trust me. Earlier in the game, you find a group of clowns in Lake Hylia that are doing clown things, I guess. But one of them knows how to operate a cannon that you can get shot out of to go to different locations. He is able to fix the cannon you bring him for 300 rupees. I originally thought I was getting absolutely scammed, but it takes him multiple days of back-breaking labor to fix this giant thing, and he even apologizes for making you pay that much. You use this cannon to get shot up into the city in the sky. Yes, that is actually what it is called. The item you get here is another claw shot, and you swing around this place like Spider-Man. I did not really like this dungeon besides the item you get because there's a lot of waiting. Also, I had to backtrack through the entire thing 3 times again because I suck, but even if I didn't have to, I didn't really like the dungeon anyways. It feels like the Temple of Time, but just continued. The boss is cinematically very cool, but I would be lying if I said I didn't find it annoying and tedious. Okay, so before we get to the final part of the game, I would like to talk a little bit about some other things. While in wolf form, you can actually speak to animals, and while at first I thought they would all say useless things, sometimes they would give you hints or the location of treasure. You also have to talk to this one cat named Louise, which I find funny because my actual cat is named Eloise. How cute. Aww. I actually named Epona Eloise because at the start of the game it gives you the option to. Louise is a very sophisticated cat and she knows Link is the wolf, so while you're in human form, Link and Louise kind of just look at each other and nod, which I find just hilarious. There is a male delivery guy who is a lot similar to the one from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, although he does look a little different, and honestly I do prefer the older versions of him. He will completely stop you in your tracks whenever he wants to just give you mail. He even makes a trumpet noise. He is so dedicated to his job, it's crazy. Anyways, the final 2 areas of this game are certainly something. You head into the Twilight Realm to face Sant after all this time, and you find out that Midna is the real ruler of the Twilight Realm. She's the
Say the line, Bart!
Twilight Princess. All the build-up from the game leads up to this one final moment. Prepare to know defeat, Zant, for I am Pumperum, the... Oh, Midna popped him like a balloon. Neat. This is when the game basically shoehorns Ganondorf in. Apparently he offered Zant power, but of course Ganon just wanted to become powerful enough to return to the Light Realm, and when Zant is defeated, Ganon just shows up and is all like, fuck you, this game isn't done yet. You then go to Hyrule Castle for the final showdown. One thing that really threw me off here is the fight you have with King Bulblin. For the entirety of the game, King Bulblin and his gash of Bulblins have been trying to kill Link, and they are the reason Ilia lost her memory, as they were the ones who kidnapped her. You fight King Bulblin many times throughout the game, and his final battle is here in Hyrule Castle. What I don't get is when you beat him and he just pulls the "I'm not even playing" during Grounders or Manhunt card. He just says he follows whichever side is strongest, and that is all he has ever known. Okay. I don't know, I feel like they could have done a lot more with this character because this just seems like it's out of nowhere. After this though, you make it to Ganon. He literally puts himself into Zelda's corpse and makes you play tennis with her until he gets mad and transforms into his big boar form, and you defeat him again. But then he gets up and is all like, fuck you, this game still isn't over, and makes you fight him on horseback before the fourth and final phase of the boss happens. I was really not a fan of stages 2 and 3. While in this boar form, he just charges at you, and while it's cool to use Midna to just grab onto his face and throw him to the side, it was very tedious and frustrating. The horseback part was the worst by far though, as you have to target him, be close enough, and be behind him for Zelda to take her sweet ass time to shoot light arrows at him. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, earlier Midna gave Zelda her soul back or something, so she's alive now. Yay! Anyways, after the final phase of just a straight on sword duel, you plunge your sword into his chest and kill him. I think. I don't know. Zant just appears in the sky and snaps Ganon's neck with some sort of like voodoo power or something. It doesn't really make any sense. After this, Midna is no longer cursed and becomes human again. She says her farewells and shatters the mirror that is the gate between the two worlds. Link will never get to see her again, and that made me kind of sad because I had grown very fond of Midna. She was a very good guide for Link and has an actual personality past being a fairy who just tells Link where to go. And that concludes Twilight Princess. It took me about 32 hours to beat, and I was not expecting to love it as much as I did. The dungeons are all kind of the same layout wise, but I didn't really mind because of how amazing the atmosphere of these places are. The bosses, dungeon items, and atmosphere definitely carry the dungeons of this game, so if you are more into the complex yet intricate dungeons from the Zelda franchise, you might not like these ones so much. The game for some reason gets a little hand-holdy near the end, with Snow Peak Ruins literally marking the location of where you need to go, and having doors unlock for you as you need them in the main room. But other than that, this game was challenging yet fair, and I am proud to say that I only used the guide like 3 times. And it was for some bullshit that made no sense. This game tells a more realistic story with a darker tone, and they did this perfectly. The game never takes itself too seriously, and if you can look past the initial edge this game has, I can guarantee you will love it. Twilight Princess is a genuine masterpiece, and while it does have some flaws, it certainly is a game I will remember for a long time. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day.